The wind cut through Hollow Creek's pines, carrying the low, mournful howl of an old husky named Ghost. Every night, at exactly 8:17 p.m., and as the moon crested the ridge, he'd plant himself by the creek's edge, his graying muzzle tilted skyward, his wail echoing off the rocks like a cry from 40 years past. Henry Walsh, 62, stood on his cabin porch, coffee steaming in his hands, watching the dog he'd raised for 15 years. Locals shrugged it off, muttering, "Old dogs get quirky," their voices soft with pity as they passed his sagging fence, their boots scuffing the gravel. 2 summers back, Henry's wife, Clara, had slipped away, cancer taking her fast and quiet. She'd been the town's heartbeat, her bakery a warm hub of gossip and cinnamon rolls, her hands dusted with flour, her laugh a melody Henry lived by. He'd been her shadow, fixing ovens, hauling sacks, content in her glow. When she died, he'd retreated, the cabin growing still, his world shrinking to Ghost's steady blue stare. That first night without her, he'd lain awake, the bed too wide, her lavender scent clinging to the pillow, his sobs swallowed by the dark. He'd tried to keep moving as she'd urged in her final rasp, "Don't stop, Henry." But grief was a stone in his chest, heavy and cold. Ghost had been their third, a scruffy pup Clara picked from a litter in Missoula. "Those eyes see right through you," she'd said, cradling him, his white fur stark against her apron. They'd raised him on scraps and trails, his howls a playful chorus to their hikes through the pines. Now, at 15, his joints creaked, his coat dulled to a patchy silver, but those eyes still pierced, sharp as ice. 6 months ago, the howling started, always at that same bend in Hollow Creek, a shallow stretch where the water gurgled over smooth stones, the banks fringed with moss, precisely at 8:17 p.m. The hour Amy Carter vanished in 78, swept away in a storm, or so the story went. Henry'd trudge out, flashlight bobbing, calling, "Ghost, enough!" The husky'd limp back, silent, only to return the next night, his wail a clockwork echo. "He's senile," Tom Grady, the hardware store owner, chuckled one morning, tossing Henry a nail pack across the counter. "My collie did that, howled at nothing till she dropped." Henry nodded, forcing a grin, but Ghost's precision gnawed at him, a thread he couldn't cut. Tom's grandson, Jake, a lanky 16-year-old with a mop of dark hair, smirked from the aisle, scrolling his phone. "Gramps says your dog's nuts, old man. Got a video of him last week. Sounded like a banshee. Time-stamped 8:17. That October evening, the air bit colder, frost rimming the grass, the sky a bruised purple. Ghost's howl rose at 8:17. Sharper, pulling Henry from his chair, the fire crackling low behind him. He grabbed his coat, boots crunching gravel as he followed the sound, his breath misting in the chill. The creek glinted under the moon, its banks shadowed by towering pines, their needles whispering in the breeze. Ghost stood rigid, ears pricked, staring at the water, his fur rippling in the wind. "What is it, boy?" Henry muttered, kneeling beside him, his knees protesting the damp earth. Ghost pawed the shallows, whining, then plunged his muzzle in, tugging something free. Muddy water splashed, and he dropped it at Henry's feet. A doll, sodden, its cloth body torn, one glass eye missing, blonde yarn hair matted with silt, a faded name stitched crookedly on its chest. Amy. Henry's breath caught, a chill creeping up his spine, unrelated to the wind. "Where'd this come from?" he said, turning it over, the fabric heavy, the stuffing clumped. Ghost nosed it, growling low, his hackles up, unlike his usual calm snuffle of a stick or bone. Henry froze, his mind flicking to Clara's dolls, her careful stitches for the town's kids, her laughter over thread and tea. This wasn't hers. The work was rough, but for a heartbeat, he'd thought it was. A shard of her reaching back until he saw Amy, a name from a story he'd buried. He sat back, the doll in his lap, the name Amy staring up. Clara's voice echoed from a summer years ago. Standing by this creek, her boots wet, her hand in his. Water remembers Henry, every splash, every cry, she'd said, watching Ghost splash after a stick, her tone soft, almost mystic. He'd laughed then, you and your fairy tales, but now it hit. Her words a thread to this moment. Footsteps rustled nearby, a twig snapping underfoot. Henry swung the flashlight, catching a glimpse of a figure. Tall, hooded, slipping into the trees. The crunch of leaves fading fast. "Hey!" Henry called, voice rough. But the woods swallowed the sound, leaving only Ghost's whine. Hollow Creek had whispers, old tales of kids lost to the mountains, accidents hushed up decades ago. Amy Carter's name among them. 7, lost at 8:17 p. Nah! Her parents broken and gone. Henry dismissed them, Clara's practicality rubbing off. Folks exaggerate, Henry. Now, his gut twisted. Ghost's eyes locked on the spot where the figure vanished. A truth tugging at him. An echo Clara might have heard. Back home, Ghost wouldn't settle. He paced the cabin, claws tapping the worn planks, circling back to the door, the doll on the table dripping muddy water onto the wood, pooling dark. Henry tried to sleep, the fire's glow fading to embers, but the doll's blank stare haunted him. Amy, stitched in red thread. He'd lost Clara to something he couldn't fight. Ignored her coughs till the diagnosis hit. A failure that gnawed him still. Ghost's howling had started after, at 8:17 every night. A ritual Henry'd chalked up to age. Loneliness mirroring his own. Two old souls fading together. Tonight felt different, urgent, a plea he couldn't ignore. He remembered Clara by the creek, her words, Ghost's howl, sinking with a cry no one else heard. By dawn, Henry grabbed his thermos, the doll in a bag, its yarn hair brushing his fingers. "Show me again, boy." Ghost led him back, his gait stiff but sure, the creek's murmur louder in the grey light, mist curling off the water. He pawed the same spot, whining, then tugged Henry upstream, past the bend where the water deepened, the bank steeper, roots twisting into the soil. The husky stopped at a rocky outcrop, nosing a tangle of silt and debris, his breath puffing white. Henry knelt, digging with his hands, mud slick under his nails, the cold seeping through his gloves. Something glinted, a metal clasp, then fabric, a child's jacket, faded blue, half buried, a small sneaker tumbling out, laces rotted to threads. His pulse quickened. He pulled it free, the cloth damp and heavy. Ghost sat staring, his howl rising at 8:17. Was a sound that shivered the air, mournful and fierce, as if calling back to that storm. Henry's mind raced. The doll, the jacket, Amy Carter's story surfacing. A girl lost at that exact hour. Her family fleeing town after. He'd been 9 then. Fishing these waters with his dad, oblivious to the searchers upstream, their shouts drowned by the wind. He called Sheriff Mills, voice tight, his hand shaking as he gripped the phone. "Found something by the creek, Ghost dug it up. A doll with Amy on it, now a jacket, a shoe. You need to see this." Mills arrived within the hour, boots crunching, her deputy trailing, a thermos dangling from her belt. "Henry, you sure it's not junk?" she said, squinting at the finds. her gray hair tucked under her cap, her face lined from years on the job. Ghost growled, circling, his eyes on the water, the medallion from Clara's old collar jingling faintly. He's been howling here for months. 8:17 every night, Henry said, pointing to the doll-stitched Amy. I found that last night someone was watching, took off. Mills frowned, bagging the items, her gloves snapping as she sealed them. We'll look into it, but don't get hopes up. Old stuff washes up all the time. Deputy Klein, young, skeptical, kicked a rock into the creek, splashing shallow ripples. Dog's half deaf, probably chasing ghosts, no offense. Henry bristled, his jaw tight. He's not chasing nothing. He led me right to it, same time she went missing. Mills sighed, nodding to Ghost. All right, we'll dig, figuratively for now. See if it matches anything cold. Days later, Henry sat by the creek, the doll in his hands, turning it over, tracing the rough stitches. Jake Grady slouched up, phone out, earbuds dangling. Caught your mutt howling again last night, posted it, got like 50 likes. 8:17 on the dot, he said, smirking, then paused, squinting at the doll. That's creepy, man. Where'd he get it? Henry grunted. Pulled it from the water? Name's Amy. Jake's smirk faded. He shifted his weight. My gramps said some girl drowned here forever ago. Freaked my mom out as a kid. Same time, too. Henry nodded, the pieces clicking, but doubt crept in. He'd stopped by the thrift shop, found a bin of old dolls, some with names, mass-made decades back. A few marked Amy in faded ink. Maybe it was nothing. A coincidence Ghost had latched onto. His howling just age after all. A tired old dog crying for a past that wasn't there. He tossed the doll on the table that night, muttering, Sorry, boy, I got it wrong. We're both too old for this. Ghost whined, nudging it, then bolted out, his howl piercing the dusk at 8:17 p. Louder, roar. Henry sighed, grabbing his coat. Fine, one more time. My Ghost dragged him back, past the outcrop, upstream to a hollowed log, half submerged, barking sharp, urgent. Henry stumbled after, branches snagging his coat, the flashlight beam bouncing, his breath ragged. He peered in. The light catching bone. Small, pale, a child's hand. Skeletal, tangled in roots. A scrap of fabric clinging to it. Blue like the jacket. His stomach dropped. He staggered back, bile rising, the air thick with pine and decay. Oh, God, he rasped, Ghost pressing against him, steadying his shaking legs. Two old souls proving they weren't done. He called Mills again, voice breaking, barely audible over the wind. Bones human by the creek. Ghost found him, it's real. Mills returned at dawn. Her team cordoning the area, tape flapping in the wind, the creek's edge buzzing with techs, cameras clicking as they bagged the remains. Ghost sat by Henry, watching, his ears twitching at every rustle. Looks old, Mills said, grim, her radio crackling with static. Could be Amy Carter, missing since 78. Storm took her at 8:17, they said. We'll test it. Klein approached, quieter now, his boots scuffing the dirt. Dog's got a nose. I'll give him that. Saw someone last week up here, tall guy. Thought it was a hiker, bolted when I yelled. Henry nodded, the hooded figure flashing in his mind. Jake ran up, breathless, shoving his phone at Mills. Check this. From last night's video, 8:17, look in the back. Mills squinted, the grainy footage showing Ghost howling, and there, in the shadows, a figure, tall, hooded, slipping away, an old badge glinting briefly, army boots scuffing the dirt. Maybe Joe Rader, ex-deputy from the 78 search, dismissed after, now a recluse in the hills. You think he did something? Jake asked, voice low. Henry met Ghost's eyes. I think Ghost knew. Mills clapped Henry's shoulder, her grip firm. He did what we couldn't. stirred up something buried deep. Weeks later, tests confirmed it. Amy Carter, her remains lodged in that log, missed by searchers decades ago. The storm lie to cover a search cut short ended at 8:20 p. Her parents, traced to Boise, sent a shaky voicemail to Mills, forwarded to Henry. A woman's voice, raw and torn, broke through the static. We prayed someone would hear her, and who'd have thought it'd be a dog. Thank you, Ghost. She's finally home now. Their words hung, frail yet grateful. A circle closed. The Gazette ran it. Huskies howl unearths lost girl at 8:17. Henry's porch filled with notes, flowers, a kid's drawing of Ghost with a halo. Crayon smudged. Jake dropped by, hands in pockets. Saw that guy again, night before last. Same silhouette, same boots. Took off when I aimed my flashlight. Gave the clip to Mills. They're looking. I used to laugh at him, Henry. But now I believe some dogs know more than we ever will. At the diner, folks bought Henry's coffee, saying, "That dog, huh?" Tom mused. My collie never found bones, should have listened more. Hollow Creek shifted. Ghost wasn't just Henry's, he was their echo, their bridge to a girl lost and found. One dusk, Henry walked Ghost to the creek, the air soft, the water calm, reflecting the fading gold of the sky. The next morning he passed the town square, where the old fountain trickled, its stone worn smooth. Someone had left a candle there, its flame steady in the dawn, a small sign at its base scratched in marker. At 8:17, he heard what no one else did. Back home, night fell, stars bright, the cabin quiet but warm. He sat by the fireplace, Ghost at his feet, the cleaned doll on the mantel beside Clara's photo, its yarn hair combed, Amy stitched in red, a bridge between losses. He set the frame down, her smile frozen in time, then looked at Ghost, his grey fur glowing in the firelight. "I thought you were howling to leave me, boy, fading with each cry," he whispered, voice cracking. "But you were calling me back, weren't you?" A breeze slipped through the cracked window, lifting a petal from the flowers on the porch. It drifted inside, fluttering toward the floor. Ghost caught it gently, placing it back beside the doll, guarding their past, their truth. Henry stood, stepping to the window, the doll now on the sill, dawn breaking slow, painting the creek gold. Ghost joined him, gazing not at Henry, but at the water, where mist parted, revealing a faint candle flicker drifting downstream, a silent memory for Amy. The town hummed below. A bike bell chimed. A distant bark answered. Kids laughed faintly. Henry rested a hand on Ghost's head, voice low. "Maybe you were calling her all along, boy, because no one else heard." Ghost huffed, steady, his blue eyes catching the light. "Too old, they said," Henry murmured, smiling. "Turns out you're timeless." From a lost love to a lost girl, Ghost had led him to truth. A town healed, and a life reclaimed. So, viewers, imagine this. A dog howls and finds a miracle. Has your pet ever uncovered something? Tell us below, we're hooked. If Ghost's tale moved you, hit that like, subscribe, and catch our next legend now.